Hello class, in this video we're going to be going over an additional drawing tool within Illustrator. This is called the Blob Brush Tool that we will be making use of. Now the Blob Brush Tool, that's a kind of tongue twister, it can be found under the Paintbrush tool here. So this is the Blob Brush Tool. So go ahead and select it. Now, one of the things with this tool does make good use of either a graphics tablet or a tablet display, whatever you have. But you could also use it with the mouse. But I'll talk about some of the shortcomings of using it with the mouse and show you some of the things that if you do have a graphics tablet, some of the benefits that it gives you as well. So with this tool, right now I have my default black and white stroke and fill. I'm also using the Essential Classic workspace. And what I'm going to do, as long as you create a shape, what it's going to do, now unlike the paintbrush or the pencil tool, which creates a path, I'm going to switch to my selection tool. This actually creates kind of like the outline. So you get the fill and not the stroke. Now the cool thing is I'm going to go back to this brush. It doesn't have to be selected by default, but as I continue to add to this shape, it is adding to that outline, to that shape. So right here, for example, I'm just adding some little like circles at the end of it. Here, I'll add some over here as well. And with this tool, similar to the paintbrushes tools within Photoshop, you could create a bigger, a smaller or larger brush size by using the square brackets. So the closed square or open square brackets makes a small brush. The closed square brackets makes a larger brush. So here I'm gonna just make this one larger, and I'm just gonna put little bumps right here on it, like little kind of bubbles. And I'm going to switch to my selection tool. I click on it. Notice that this is all one object. The Blob Brush tool allows you to combine similar stroke values to create one shape. I have this shape right here. I could fill it in, and this is now filled in. As long as I don't change the color, notice how it's not selected. I'm going to switch my color from black to red. And if I create a red stroke, and say I go over it, these are not connected. That's one separate. That's one separate. But here I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to black, and if I connect these as such, since they're the same color, they overlap. Now, one thing to note, I'm going to create one right here that's overlapping. Now, right now, using just the default functionality, I just created this shape. This is black, that's black, but notice this red one is on layer-wise, it's on top. Now this one is on top of that one, on top of this red mark. If I try to connect them as such, it's not going to connect them because it keeps the precedent of your layer stack in place. It uses that. So this right here, even though they're the same color, it's not selecting it because, or it's not combining them because of the layer order. Now, if you do want to connect them, there's options. I'm going to go ahead and double click on the Blob Brush tool to display the options and some of the options that are available. Keep selected. This one just leaves it selected after you created it. I'm going to turn this on, but then merge only with selection will allow you to specifically merge things as long as they're selected. So these two kind of work together. So I'm going to go ahead, we'll come back to these other options in a moment. So right now this is selected. As I create more stroke values around it, notice that they're combining. I'm going to hold down Command or Control on a PC to select both of these shapes. And now if I go over them as such, it's going to combine them, but it also changes my layer stack. Notice that this red object, which was previously on top of it, is now sent underneath. So, and since I still have, I'm going to deselect. If I go back and select black, even though that we have the same colors, and I'm creating this new shape. Because I did not have this other shape selected, it's not going to combine them. So that's another thing just to keep in mind. I could highlight them, select them both, I could go over them, and I'm able to interactively combine these shapes to create more complex shapes. So I'm working with my mouse. Let me switch to my stylus. And so you can't really see it. Just know that, yeah, this is my stylus. I'm able to draw with my stylus right here. It gives me different control. But notice that by default, it's not giving me pressure sensitivity. So I'm going to go back into the options right here. I'm going to double click for the Blob Brush Tool options. And under fidelity, this is how you want it to translate the stroke, the line, the drawing that you create. If you want it more accurate, you move the slider to the left. If you want the computer to add some more smoothing, you move it to the right. I'm going to leave it in the center. Now, if I want pressure sensitivity, I have to go right here under my default brush options under size. No matter what size this is, if it's 21, if it's 10, what have you, I want to change where it says fixed, and I change this to pressure, and then the variation, just move this one all the way to the right. All the way. It doesn't matter what the pressure, what the point size is. Just move it all the way to the right, like as such. I'm going to leave the angle and roundness as is. But here, let me just go ahead and mention that all of these have different options. You could have it random, pressure, stylus wheel, tilt, bearing, rotation. I'm going to leave them as fixed. Okay, so now what I have is I'm able to make use of my pressure. I could, as I press down to create a thicker stroke, I could do that. So now I'm able to, now I don't necessarily need to connect it to this one, but you can see how as I press down or let go, I could create a thick or thinner stroke. And if I want all these to be connected, I could just go over them right here as they're. Now I don't necessarily need to connect these, but say if I want this area to be filled in, I could interactively color this in. Here I'm going to create these different lines as such. As long as I have the same color or they're selected, I'm going to select this one. It automatically selects the color. I could add more shapes to this one. Now this one is still layer-wise underneath it. So I could do something like this if I want to create little shapes. Here I'm going to add little circles on this one. What I could always do is if I want these underneath, I could move these shapes. Let's see, I switched my tool by accident. I'm going to select these shapes. I'm using, I should mention, I'm using my selection tool. I'm clicking on one and hold down shift, and I'm able to add to that selection. And I go back to my Blob Brush Tool. Now if I go over them as such, it's going to connect them all, but it also brings them up. This is where I could right mouse click on this shape. I could tell it to arrange if I want them to send backwards. So I'm just changing the layer order without going into my layers. I could always just switch these around as well. So this is using the Blob Brush Tool. One of the tasks that I want you to do for this week's assignment is using the Blob Brush Tool to be able to create your own outline of one of the different images for the silhouette assignment. In the next video, we'll be showing you along with the pen tool with the pencil tool how to create or go about using these tools to create those outlines. So we still have one more tool to go over before I go over that demonstration. We still have the eraser tool, and then I have a brief demonstration of using these tools for our assignment. So I'll see you in those next videos. Okay, bye.